guys, it's me, Tommy, and I'm here to show you how to do your own sew-in. It's very simple, very easy to do, and I'm going to take my time to give you guys a very detailed process on how I create my own sew-in. So if you're interested, definitely keep watching. So first things first, the tools that you're going to need is some thread. I have two different types of thread. You're going to need some scissors. You're going to need some needles, a sewing needle. I definitely like to have more than one, and I also like to pre-thread it. It makes the process go by really fast. Of course, you're going to need a moisturizer and a leave-in. So I'm using just my hair oil mix, some Cantu shea butter. You're going to need some scrunchies, a comb, and some clamps. And the hair I'm going to be using is from Maven. This is their Brazilian curly in 14 inches. I'll be using 2.5 bundles. This hair was previously installed onto a wig, but I took it off to do my sew-in. So first things first, you're going to start off, and this is a necessity, with clean hair. Freshly washed clean hair, that's what you're going to use. Well, that's what you need to have when you're doing your sew-in. And I want my sew-in to be a side part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to part my hair first where I want my side part to be. And then I'm going to put that into 3 sections. I'm going to work in sections to do my braid pattern. So my first section is going to be where I'm going to start with, and that's going to be on my left hand side. And the first thing I do is I select how much I want my leave out to be. So after you decide how much you want your leave out to be, you're going to detangle your leave out area, and you're going to twist it up or put it to the side so that it doesn't get in the way with the rest of your hair. So that's going to be the front area. I'm going to just twist it. And just twisting it for me with this hairstyle just makes my hair blend a little bit better because I'm using kinkier curly hair. So I'm going to twist that away, and then I'm going to take some leave out for the front area, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to twist it and put it to the side, and then I'm going to start my braid pattern. So with that section, I'm going to moisturize my hair with my Cantu shea butter and also follow up with my hair oil. And I'm going to braid my first anchor braid, which is going to be on the top section. I'm going to braid that going back. And the reason why I say it's an anchor braid is this is where you want your last track to sit on. My second anchor braid is going to go down to the side area, and then I'm going to follow up with my remaining braids going downwards towards my ear. And then I'm going to connect that first braid with the second braid, and then continue on braiding. So that's basically my braiding pattern for the front section. I'm going to do my anchor braid going back, and then I'm going to do some extra braids going down, and I'm going to connect each braid. I repeated that step on the same side, on the other side, sorry, on my right hand side. Now with the back section, I have to work in sections for the back section because the back of my hair is a little bit thicker than the front. So I'm going to moisturize and condition and detangle really well, but also very gently with my hair, working in different sections. And then again, the same way I did the braid pattern in the front, I'm going to do with the back. I'm just going to braid my hair just going back, and I'm going to connect my braids. I'm not going to be using a weave net for this particular video, but I definitely will link you guys. You're going to see a nice little card pop up on the side to show you guys how I created my sew-in on newly natural hair when I freshly big chopped. I did use a net for that, so if you guys are newly natural or you have really short hair and you want to know how it will work with shorter hair, definitely check out that video. Then I'm going to oil my scalp, but just note to people who are working with weaves that are not a curly texture, definitely do not use too much oil because you don't want your weave to be weighed down with oil. But if you're using a kinkier texture, you can just use as much oil as you can because it's not really going to weigh your hair down at all. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just showing you guys my braiding pattern. It's very simple. In the back, when I connected my braids, I just tucked it in the back, and that's basically it. So we're going to go right into the sew-in section right now, which, you know, a lot of people have difficulty with, but definitely just take your time. Again, I pre-threaded my needles because it just makes it easier. And I like to just throw the hair I have around my shoulder because it just makes it a little bit better for me to actually just sew across my braids. So I personally like to start off by my ear section. You can start off wherever you want to if you want to start off by your nape. But what I do is I pull my thread through the thread. It sounds really weird, but just look at the way I'm doing it. And the reason why I do that is because it just helps me get a nice, good, solid base when I'm starting off with my hair. And then when I'm doing my next stitch, what I'll do is I'll just wrap the thread around the needle to create a knot. I always like to hold the track down when I'm sewing just so that it stays in place and I know that it's positioned the right way. So when you're sewing your hair, just definitely just be, just take your time with it. Take your time with the thread especially because it will tangle up, and just basically have patience. So my first stitch is in through the weft, but the remaining stitches are around the weft. Sew the hair around the weft and not through the weft because it helps minimize shedding. And for me to lock my thread in, what I do is I take my needle and I pull it through the thread, and that helps lock the thread. You want to make sure that your thread is nice and locked so that while you're styling and you're leaving your sewing for a long time, the thread doesn't loosen or your tracks don't fall out. So basically I'm doing is I'm just pulling the thread, my needle through the thread. So just try to listen to what I'm saying and also just watch what I'm doing. So hopefully this makes sense. If you need to stop, pause, slow it down, go back, definitely do so. It's definitely a learning process. So I'm going to continue to stitch around the weft on the perimeter of my head. Now when it comes to folding, this can be very tricky, but it's very easy to do. What you do is you make the fold that you want, make sure the fold is nice and flat, and then take the rest of your track and throw it over your shoulder or around your head. Now keep one hand down on the flap, and the other hand, what you're going to do is you're going to do a nice clean stitch. You're just going to go around the weft and then pull your needle through the thread, and that's it. You just lock it in place. If you want to wrap the thread around the needle, you can do that to lock it in place, but just keep repeating that stitch so that that fold is nice and flat. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure I keep my finger on the actual fold, and I'm going to wrap the thread and the needle around it so that that stitching is nice and tightly down. But not too tight because you don't want to give yourself a headache, but definitely just make sure that it's nice and flat. And then you just continue to stitch around your head. So just doing the fold helps prevent shedding as well, and it helps you reuse the hair a little bit more because you're not cutting the tracks too much, so you can always reuse it. And this is just a second look at how I did the fold. Again, make sure to keep your finger where the fold is, and then just keep tacking it down with your needle and thread until it's nice and flat, and then you can move on to your next braid. Again, if you guys are having any troubles with what I'm trying to explain to you guys, you can always just stop it, pause, and just rewind it again and just look at what I'm doing. Because I'm trying not to do any fast forwarding with this. I'm trying to just show you guys the entire process, but not the entire process because it took about 2 hours to do. So another neat trick you can do when you're doing your hair, let's say you ran out of your track, but you still have a lot of your thread left, you'll just push your needle through your next track and then just pull it through and then just continue to sew. So that's what I'm doing here. I already finished my track. I'm starting a new track. Instead of me cutting the thread and looping all over again, I just pushed my needle through the weft of the new track, and then I started my new row, and then just just tack it down. Just make sure that when you're doing the ends that you're tacking it down really well, because definitely if you're wearing your weave for a month, 2 or 3, never exceed 3 months, it's going to go through a lot of wear and tear with you styling it and washing it. So just making sure that the ends of each weft is tacked down helps with the longevity of your sewing. So now that I'm done, I realized that I didn't sew on that anchor braid that I had up there in the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew a track underneath that braid and then a track over that braid. So here I'm sewing the track underneath it. Now this is optional. This is only because I totally didn't realize that I wasn't sewing on this braid and I need to cover up that braid. And that braid's already tucked in, so I can't pull it out as a leave out. So that's what I'm doing. So I just sewed underneath the braid and then on top of the braid to cover it, and you're basically done. So this is what your sewing should look like. Just make sure your spacing is nice and correct. Those 2 pieces in the front will be my leave out, and I'm just tightening up my bantu knot so that it doesn't fall out when I go to sleep. And then what I'm going to do in order for me, not in order for me, but when I go to sleep at night, what I'll use is my silk bonnet that I purchased from Walmart. And I'm just going to tuck my hair in at night. And that's just how I sleep when I have like my curly sew-ins in. Now the next morning, this is me trying to get ready for work. Please excuse my foundation. The ring light really makes my face look so washed out. But in the morning, what you'll do is you'll just fluff your hair out. Now this is after a fresh sew-in. So as you can see, my leave out is still intact. What I'll do is I'll just take my leave out. And now it's time for me to blend my leave out with the hair. Now, when you're working with the kinkier texture hair, it's very easy to blend your hair with the kinkier texture. What you do is you take a piece of your hair and you're going to wrap it around, or you're going to do a 2-strand twist with the actual weave. So I will take a piece of my hair, take a piece of the curl, and I'll just twist each piece together so that it blends seamlessly. This works really well if your hair is super short or if your hair is super long, then the blending won't be as bad. But with me, my hair is in between, and right now in Florida, the rain is just really ridiculous. So with me blending my hair with the weave, it just makes it look like a seamless finish. So that's all I'm doing is I'm taking a strand of my hair and taking a strand of that hair, and I'm just twisting it together to help it blend. Now that I'm done blending my hair, these are the final results. Always definitely check with your fingers to see if there's any tracks showing. And if there is, just try to move your hair around just to make sure that no tracks are showing. If you want, you could take a mirror to see the top of your head, or ask a friend or a spouse to take a look at it. And then I'm just going to just pull out my curls so it's a nice fluffier look. And it looks more realistic when you pull the curls out as well. I don't really care too much for my edges. I'll let them be nappy and kinky. I don't want it to be smoothed down, because if this was my natural hair, my edges won't be smoothed down. Now this is another day that I did, that I'm showing you guys. This is second day hair. I did get caught in the rain, but as you can see, my hair's still blending. And basically, I don't have to worry about twisting and blending. All I do is just pull up my curls and I'm ready to go. So this is like day 2 hair that I'm showing you guys. All you're doing is basically just pulling out the curls. And then this is how my hair looked at the end of that day. Again, I'm just showing you how the blending is still intact. And if any curl comes out, you can easily just tuck it in or wrap it around. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. I tried my best to be as detailed as possible, but if you have any questions, you can leave it below, and I'll see you guys in my next video.